Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Season 2, Episode 8.
Welcome back, friends, for our tastiest episode so far. Our guest today brews some of the best coffee around and handles business in all the right ways. Welcome the owner of both Northbound Supply and Honest Roast Coffee, Matt Schwahn, right? That's how you pronounce it?
Yeah, you got it, man. Good job. You did better than most of my teachers throughout my scholastic career.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So what's the best way for people to follow you and keep up with like things that you're doing or if they want to collaborate or whatever?
Oh, man, it's 2020 now, so probably just social media, at Honest Roast Coffee, at Northbound Supply, Facebook, Instagram. I'm too old to understand how Twitter works. I think we have accounts, but I'm not on there. I do not understand that platform. It does not make sense to me.
I'm the same way. I really don't get it. And I was on Instagram today, and some new app through Instagram just dropped called Threads. My brief understanding is like it's supposed to be kind of like Snapchat for Instagram or something. And every time I hear that, or like TikTok's this new thing too, I'm like, no, I feel like I'm just getting the hang of how to use Instagram for my business. I don't want more platforms.
No,
like,
if that takes over,
fine.
I need to hire like a 14-year-old to just take care of it. They can just run 5
Dude,
apps at once.
Hired kids. That's a whole thing, man. So you've been making coffee longer than you had Northbound, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because Northbound is a year and a half.
Just over 2 years now.
Okay.
2 years this past August. But Honest Roast I've been doing for just over 5 years now.
Okay.
And I actually had roasted coffee for a long time before starting Honest Roast. It was sort of like a weird kind of like passion hobby kind of thing that sort of just eventually turned into a business.
Well, so I know people like brew beer, like you can do small quantities and stuff in your house. Mm-hmm. How do you roast coffee? Like where do you get the beans? Can you like walk me through briefly, summarize how you even do it?
Yeah, I mean, coffee roasting is just like essentially anything else. You're just cooking something.
Where you buy the beans from?
There's like home roastery websites online that you can get green beans from. That's how I started way back in the day. Sweet Maria is just a home roasting site you can go get green beans on. And there's small batch like home roasters you can buy. At Origin, like they'll roast coffee on a fry pan over like a campfire,
You can use green beans for coffee? I thought it was like coffee beans were a different kind of bean.
No, man, it's like raw coffee beans. So I get like raw green coffee beans and then I roast them. That's what people pay me to do is that process.
Okay.
Which is kind of like unique. I always say that coffee roasting kind of tickles like both sides of my brain. Like I have like a super rigid scientific analytical mind, and the other side of my mind is just full blown creative weirdness. Which, for whatever reason, coffee roasting is the first thing I've come across where it like kind of hits both those things. Because I have like, all the thermocouples and all the feedback that I get from the roaster that tells me, where what the ambient temperature is and airflow and all that other fun stuff. But at the same time, it's like I look at raw coffee as sort of like a blank canvas and like, my roasting process and my, the roasting curves that I program into the roaster are kind of like me painting on the canvas, so to speak.
Huh. Okay. So if I wanted to start that up as a hobby and I wanted to roast some coffee over this winter,
sure.
What would be the things I would need to buy? How much money would it cost me to make like a batch of coffee?
You can do a hot air popcorn popper. You can roast coffee in that. People have done it in a baking sheet just in the oven. Like I said, you can do it in a cast iron skillet on your stove. There's a fair amount of smoke output that you're going to deal with, but it's like I said, it's a cooking process, a roasting process. You can pretty much just do it on anything that produces heat.
So crazy. And we'll get more into that a little bit later, I think. But what was like the motivation to opening the store? Because if you already roasted coffee, you had a different job besides that. You were working FedEx or something. What were you working before?
No, I worked at the family business.
See, now I'm way off. Okay, so what was the motivation then behind opening Northbound? Was it because you already roast coffee and now you want to have a coffee shop to go with it type thing? Or like?
Yeah, so sort of the catalyst behind Northbound was my buddy John opened the shop, or he actually moved good and sturdy to his current location, which is right next door to us. He had the storefront right next to him that was vacant for, I think it was like 14 or 15 years, something like that. And he was just like, I want something like complimentary and like cool that would be down there. And pretty much since I started Honest Roast, people have been like, you should open a coffee shop. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to, like, the way I wanted to do a coffee shop, I felt like kind of wouldn't work in Eau Claire. It'd be like super slow bar, like wild and crazy espresso stuff. I was just like, I don't know if that would work, whatever. And also was like, I didn't want to undertake like a whole new, start another business, especially like at that time, like being like a couple years into Honest Roast and just getting over the hurdle of starting a business, just the kind of toll that it takes on you mentally and physically. Like, I don't want to do this all over again. That was a lot of work. I don't know if I'm ready to do that again. But then another guy that was always hanging out at my buddy John's shop was my eventual business partner in Northbound, Jeff, who wanted to do something kind of like boutique sort of retail-y. And we kind of had this idea of, well, what if we did this hybrid combination thing where it was, this cool boutique retail store with like a bunch of cool and we had just a dope coffee shop at it. And then I was kind of like, well, that's, something that I hadn't really considered. And the more I thought about it, I was like, this is cool. This is right around when things are happening downtown Eau Claire, right? The sort of the renaissance that's going on down there where there's like cool downtown now, and I've grew up and lived in, this area like entire life. I remember being in high school and downtown Eau Claire just being like, there's no reason to go down there. There's just nothing.
Yeah.
And now there's all kinds of cool. There's like your shop, there's the, you kind of have to give a lot of credit to, the Oxbow and the Lismore for just being sort of like these big anchors of, okay, this is going to be a real thing now. And all these other small shops can kind of like build around this, right?
Yeah.
Which is super cool that all these kind of cool shops exist that, weren't there all that long ago.
True. The Oxbow, I heard that they actually opened in their location because I was there first.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right on.
No, but it's been cool because people tell that to me all the time. They're like, man, you have such a dope location. And I'm like, dude, it wasn't when I opened.
Yeah, right.
But then, when the Oxbow built their fancy hotel there, and now there's so many events and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Ramones came in after that, and now Becca and Brooke, like all these places opened up around me that, like, downtown is a spot to go. In my opinion, I think it really started with RCU building Phoenix Park.
Oh, yeah, that too, yeah.
That
for sure.
seemed to be like the biggest catalyst of all of downtown because now there is a reason for people to go down there, whether it was fishing or just walking around with the kids or whatever. Right. Now all of a sudden you're having like the music in the park and all this other stuff. Volume 1 then decided they're going to have their store. Yeah. But I feel like it was Phoenix Park that really first kicked it off. And now Eau Claire has invested such an incredibly large amount of money through the Pablo Center, the Confluence, like through all the different things downtown that, it doesn't make sense to go anywhere else for shopping and stuff because all that stuff is kind of lame now. Go over to the mall and a lot of those stores are empty. It's just like the few anchor stores that run everything. And even the anchor stores, they're just big corporate stores that have all their same stuff online that you can get free shipping. So there's not really a reason to go to them, I don't think, anymore in comparison to like what, downtown is. So for like Honest Roast versus, or I guess I should say Northbound for it being like a boutique store as well as coffee. Yeah. How is the balance like percentage wise of sales between like where's the money coming from? Where's the revenue coming from? Is it coming from the coffee or is it coming from the retail? Is it like a 50-50 balance for the most part?
During the week, people are mostly coming in for coffee, which kind of makes sense. There's not a whole lot of people that are out there like buying gear at, 10:30 in the morning or something like that. But we do a lot of retail sales like on the weekend and stuff. And So you think the way that it's going, like the direction isn't necessarily going to change a whole lot? No, I don't think so. There's always, there's so much cool out there that I want to bring into the store. That's always, there's always pretty much just like every day I'm like, oh, that's cool. Sure. I should bring that in. But at the same time, there's also, you need to be concerned about what kind of product, will work in Eau Claire and what makes sense given the demographics that you have to play with. It's not a super huge like metropolitan area. It's not Minneapolis. There's cool stuff going on, but you're also playing kind of like a numbers game where it's how many people can actually support sort of high-end retail in Eau Claire.
The niche market in Eau Claire. Honestly, and I'm not going to call out which shops, but there are at least a handful of shops downtown in our general zone that every time I look at them, I'm like, how are you still open? Not that you're not nice, not that your products aren't good, but is there really enough people buying that type of product in Eau Claire? We just don't have. I see that in skateboarding, and I feel like I'm such a niche. And skateboarding is a huge industry. And then I see some of the other like boutique type stores, and I'm like, you are a badass that you're making it work because what you're doing is sick. I'm just surprised that it works. We have like a really large variety of really unique, cool stores in our area that, yeah, I'm just kind of surprised there's enough community support behind them. I think a lot of them too, though, they survive because they do a lot of like community events and they're involved in a lot of things, lot more beyond than just being open. You know, the people are supportive of them and come to them to buy stuff, not because of the store, but because of the other things it's involved in. You know what I'm talking about? Like with Volume 1, like people don't go to Volume 1 just because it says Eau Claire. Like people go to Volume 1 because they have shows there and they're the ones who do the newspaper and whatever. So people just want to buy from them because of all the other things they do. I think that's how a lot of the other stores are. And I try to do that a lot with myself. Like I try to be involved in a lot of different things. Eau Claire is a very like welcoming and tight-knit community.
Yeah.
You know, like with you, like you play my podcast every Friday at, you know, your shop at 1. That's one way that we kind of collaborate together.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you do collaborations with a lot of other people in town?
I mean, I try to, but honestly, like, I kind of suck at that. It's like I'm so focused on doing, I don't have any free time. Like, I'm so busy and just doing the day-to-day stuff kind of like eats up so much of my time. Extracurricular stuff kind of gets to be like, oh man, that would be awesome to do. But I always say if there's about 30 hours in a day, I'd be set, but there's only 24. But I mean, I try to do the things that I can do. Doing like coffee gigs and catering in coffee for like events and stuff like that is a pretty easy way that, you know, I can kind of support and give back and stuff. And like my daughter goes to the Montessori school, so all the coffee catering stuff that they can do, I'm always like, yep, I'm down to do this for sure. Yeah, and just whatever I can do otherwise, like event-wise and stuff like that is always super fun to do, but it's always just like a time limitation thing.
I would say that especially like people who are afraid to reach out, because a lot of people are just uncomfortable to reach out. That's the problem. I would say that most of the time, the case with the business owners is exactly what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that people don't want to. It's just that they don't have a lot of time to. So if you want to, like, say, throw a show at a store, like if they want to throw an art show at your store, right?
Yeah.
They want to do something like that. If they approach you professionally and they show you, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is not going to take a bunch of your time and energy. I don't expect you to promote the shit out of it. I don't expect you to be open all these extra hours.
Yeah.
I'll do the work. Are you willing to make a couple posts on the gram and let me use your space to do this cool thing? I think a lot of the business owners downtown would say, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a matter of like, I don't have the time and energy to create this event and promote it and do all this stuff, but like open to doing it with other people if people just want to reach out, which is kind of the cool thing about Eau Claire is like, dude, reach out. Everybody's pretty down to give you their time to listen.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, we've done like a couple of event type things. Shout out to Just Joey, miss you, man. But one of our employees was a rapper from California. He moved out here and he had to unfortunately move back to California, but he's on to bigger and cooler and better things.
Dude, he's cool as I really wanted to go to that show. I had something specific going on that night.
Oh, yeah. Dude, the show was super fun. It somehow turned into, like, at the end, I mean, pretty much everyone that came, I think, brought a case of beer. So good times were had. And then eventually it turned into, like, a big, like, karaoke event, which was super awesome. But that was, it was fun. And that was kind of like the first show. We've done, like, a bunch of private parties and stuff. And it's always fun. Every time I do that, I'm like, man, should really just do more of these. But I have like a super, like a very curious but self-defeatist kind of mindset a lot of the time where I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool if I did something like this. And then immediately we'll come up with 1,000 reasons, be like, that's dumb. No one wants to do that. And a lot of the times I'm like, just go with it. Screw it. What's the worst that could happen? If it's dumb, fine. It's dumb. Like, whatever. People don't need to come to it then. It's, it is what it is. But all the events that we've done after every single one, I'm just like, this is awesome. Of course, now that I say that, I just jinx myself. And the next time I would be like, oh, God, why did I do this?
You can't expect everything to be a home run. It just doesn't.
No, absolutely.
So if you're willing to try and fail a few times, like, perfect, you'll know in the future. Say, like, for me, we finally threw that art show that I've been talking about at the shop.
Oh, yeah.
Turned out sick.
Nice.
Could have done that 5 years ago if I wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
But we finally decided to do it, and everyone really liked it. Tight, But if you throw the event and it misses, people don't think worse of you.
Right.
It was just like, I guess you put in some work that didn't pan out. But that's the same way when you invest money in a product that doesn't sell or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Those risks have to happen anyways.
Yeah, same thing. Like, you can agonize over that stuff forever. And eventually, like I said, I think a lot of the times you just need to do that. And that's a lot of what small business is. I always say, like, that's one of the mistakes that I always made is that I always wanted everything to be perfect. I was like, it's got to be perfect before it comes. It's like, sometimes you just got to, like, roll with it. And it's like, 80% is better than 0%. Just get it out there and do it.
Dude, you're preaching to me so hard
on
that one because, for real, I talk about it a lot with people. To be good at owning a business, a huge thing is your time management.
Yep.
You do not have enough time to do everything that you want to do.
No.
You just don't. So you need to be good at prioritizing your time. And yeah, that may be getting 80%, the bulk of whatever that project is done, because that's the important part. Now, all of a sudden, the priority of that project is lower than the next job you have to get to.
Right.
But it's better to get a whole bunch of things 80% done than like one of the 5 things you need to do, because that last 20% took a while. But anyways, we need motivation. We need motivation to do more, collaborative projects, to throw more. You need to invite me to the next one where there's a case of beer. I mean, I was invited, but
dude, there will always, after the last one, we will always have beer. We still have so much of it.
Well, that sounds perfect to me. I'm off for 2 months now, so.
Oh yeah, right on, man.
So this is going to be cliche, but you have a cliche shop. Sorry. You have a coffee shop in Eau Claire, dude. I mean, it's tight. It is tight.
One of the 40.
Yeah. It's the only one that I go to, really, honestly.
Oh, right on.
And that was before you played the podcast. I've been going down.
Oh, yeah,
I know it's not often. I come down and I'm like, yeah, I need my $2 coffee. But you are the only one that I even pay $2 for coffee.
Dude, I don't even, I always say I've been trying to go to places for years now. It's we don't have that much free time.
Every time, because I drop my kid off immediately before I go to my shop, which is why I normally have time. But when I do have that extra 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I always stop by and get that coffee. And you're like, oh, you got time? And I'm like, you know what time I open, man?
Yeah.
I was running errands and I got a little bit extra time. But anyways, so I'm the only locally owned skateboard shop in the area. That's my niche. That's what I am. For you, what is it that's special about Honest Roast Coffee, Northbound? Why should people give you a chance versus going to one of many other places?
I mean, I think I've always tried to my personality needs to come through in the brands. That's why if you look at the branding for Honest Roast, Dark Plasma is basically just a play off of Star Trek. It's
really good. I
like
that one.
It's the font is an homage to the original Star Trek font. It's like coffee beans floating through space. It's, for me, all of my inspiration I still pull from, no matter what I'm doing, if it's branding for coffee or what I'm doing at the coffee shop, or even if I'm writing or whatever, I pull so much from the stuff that I liked growing up, comic books and cartoons and metal and all the stuff, because I feel like that's kind of what you go to, because a lot of times you just you're uncomfortable, or you don't have a lot of self-confidence or whatever it is. You kind of fall back on those nostalgia and what was comfortable when you were a kid. So you're like, oh, I'm going to do this because it reminds me of X-Men cartoons or whatever, I always say that, Honest Roast, that's not a gimmick, right? It's not oh, I'm just going to put honest in the name, and so no one knows that won't think I'm lying to them or whatever, right? It's just for me, being honest it's important. It's crucial. That's part of my personality is honesty and integrity, and that's what's important to me. And I can't do it any other way. It just seems fake and phony to me. So that's my personality. You look at any of the social media posts, well, I shouldn't say any. There's a few sort of general purpose social media posts out there, but most of the captions that I have for social media posts or the Instagram stories, it's just ridiculous. I feel like everyone probably opens it up and looks at it and what the hell is wrong with these people?
Dude, your Wu-Tang is forever sign.
Yeah, and so many people stop and look at that and they're like, what is this, a rap shop? What's going on in here? That's my personality, and it's Jeff's personality. It's just kind of we have to be us, right? Love us or hate us, what you see is what you get. And I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. And why would you want me to anyways, right? We're not for everyone. But I always say that's the cool thing, because there's a lot of great variety in other coffee shops downtown. So if we're not for you, there's a bunch of other coffee shops that are super cool that maybe will be for you, and vice versa. And maybe those ones aren't for you. And you we have a super awesome, hardcore following, which is great. It's awesome to have that. It sounds super cliche to say it, but there's so many customers that are just they're my friends now. We hang out all the time and do shit together, and it's super cool. And half the time I'm just I think this is why, part of the reason why I do this. It's not, certainly not a wealthy person, but right. The relationships that have been able to create from doing the businesses is far and away the best part of being a small business owner. At least for me, that's the best part.
I totally agree. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of people choose to support small business in the first place is it's not that your brand is that crazy different, but it's that people find a connection and take ownership ownership of that brand.
Yeah.
They feel like they're a part of Northbound.
Right.
That's their coffee shop. You know, it's when people say like, that's my bar. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You build that kind of like community behind whatever your brand is. And then, yeah, you can just be totally yourself. It only works though in a small case scenario because it's people who know you personally. That's why people like us will probably never branch out and have like multi-million-dollar companies where there's people below us, because we rely on, and the reason that we're successful is because we are one-on-one talking to all these people.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
like that specifically. That's the thing that people really like about it, and that's the thing that we really like about it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of rad. So you kind of talked about it with that coffee that you picked out. I actually like that coffee a lot. So I want you to use your imagination here. We'll just do something fun. Yeah. So
Watch out.
Yeah, we're walking down the alley between our two shops, right? And this like cackling old lady comes out from behind what used to be everybody's bar, or whatever that bar is, and she puts a curse on you, okay?
Okay.
And you're never going to wake up once you fall asleep. Instead, you're going to turn into a coffee. Some kind of coffee drink. What coffee drink are you? Which one represents you?
Oh man. So someone asked me like what coffee I would be, and I pulled out my favorite Jim Leahy line from Trailer Park Boys. I am the coffee.
All right. Well, now that you use that one, we'll turn it around. You know me relatively well, and yes,
Yeah.
I always just drink black drip coffee with a little bit of cream. What coffee would I be, and why? Can't use the same answer.
Man.
I don't know coffees well. Otherwise, I would answer this, but I literally know like I buy ground up coffee.
Yeah, for sure. I would just dude that wears Hawaiian print shirts, owns a skateboard shop. You would be like a super wild espresso shot, like a super light roast with like all these crazy ripe fruit flavors in, but also like you'd be like a really wild light roast cortado is what you'd be. So you'd be like a double shot of like this super tropical fruit flavored light roast espresso with like some really, really nice wet velvety microfoam on top. And that's it. Like a little shot glass.
All right. At some point, you got to make that for me. I think
I will.
I think
You'll be like, what the f*** is this?
we should. Okay. So when the episode comes out, we should have that drink.
Yeah, it's a special drink you
as
can
a
get
special
that day.
for that day.
We can do that.
That would be fucking sick. We in general should do like some kind of event for when your episode comes out.
Yeah, it can be a passiontado,
passion.
a core passion,
Yeah.
core passiontado. I'll work on the name.
Sure. So you never really wanted to have a coffee shop necessarily. It just kind of worked out, it seems like.
Not really. Yeah, it just seemed like something that, like when I started Honest Roast, I just felt like I was like I don't fit in as like a coffee roaster. Like I'm not a hipster. Like I listen to metal, read comic books, kind of like a nerdy dork. And I used to go to like conventions in my industry and like trade shows and stuff, right? And I always felt like such a weirdo going to them because I was like, I just don't feel like this is my people, and I don't necessarily like fit sort of the stereotype of like a coffee roaster or like a coffee person, right? I mean, I have a big, huge beard, and like I usually have braids in my hair and look like a pissed off Viking or whatever. And like I feel like I don't look like a guy that works in the coffee industry, but I do. And yeah, I don't know.
You did it, and it's
Yeah.
fucking working.
Yeah.
So I talk to people, and they always ask 5-year plans, and it's not a 5-year plan question, but people do ask that.
Yeah.
And I like to more think of like when I opened my shop, I had a overarching goal of what I was trying to do.
Yep.
I wanted to create a cornerstone place that was a community hub for the skateboarding community. That's
Sure.
like what I envisioned it to be, where like if you go to the park, everybody's board is from there. Like
Yeah.
everyone has fond memories of it. Like it's just, that's the spot. You know what I mean? But as time goes by, I come up with other things that I really want to accomplish. You have all these like totally different goals and stuff of whatever the time frame may be. With you, what are like some of your dreams or goals, or maybe even if it's not like a huge goal, but what are like some of the things you'd really like to do at some point through either of your businesses?
I don't have huge aspirations as like a business owner. Like I'm not looking to, be like a multimillionaire or like franchise or anything. Granted, if that happens, great. I'm not going to be like, no, we're not going to let this happen. But that's not really what my aspirations are. I have pretty like modest aspirations for where I want the businesses to go and what I want them to do, and essentially what what I have financial goals, personal goals, stuff like that. I like a lot of spreadsheets. I like the data. I like crunching all the numbers all the time. That's always super fun to me. It's like my dorky, nerdy side. But I just want to get to a spot where, I'm comfortable. I put in like a lot of hard work starting the businesses and like getting them on their feet, and eventually get to a point where, I can get some people that I really trust to kind of handle like day-to-day operations. Like with Honest Roast, I always want to do all the roasting. That's what's fun to me. That's what the part that I want to do. So even if it turns into said multi-million-dollar company, I want to always be in there daily or however often I need to be in there to do all the roasting production. That's what's important to me. But, doing, sort of the other stuff and kind of like the boring business side stuff, like I can definitely take a step back from that once I can find, like I said, people that I trust and stuff like that. And then I can have more free time to golf and...
Dude, good luck. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like all of us are in that same spot.
Oh, of
Like,
course.
We
Yeah.
know what things we love about our business, and
Yeah.
we just don't have enough money to pay somebody to do X, Y, and Z yet. If
Yeah.
that happens, tight, but it's hard to make that happen.
Oh,
So
yeah, for sure.
we learn from all of our experiences through like the challenges and stuff. You swing and you miss on some things, and then you learn like, okay, I'm not gonna do this, in the future,
Right.
whatever. So let's think of it like, I just want to throw a little exercise here. So to get creative again, I just did a painting of Marty McFly because somebody asked me to do one,
Okay.
and not like an actual portrait because I suck at that. But I made this little alien guy in the DeLorean, right? So if you're forced to, you're going to hop in the DeLorean and you're going to go back to, say, a month before you made any financial commitments to Northbound. I know you're going to say you're going to redo it, like do it again. I get that. But what are some of the things that you would do differently if you had the knowledge you have now going into the business?
What would I do differently? I mean, there's definitely some inventory that I wouldn't buy.
Or maybe general advice to yourself that, maybe wasn't what you thought it was going to be.
It's funny. Like I was a little bit naive because I was like, I started a business before. I know like, how much work this is going to be and everything else, but it was a different type of a lot of work. But it's also like a totally different business. I always wanted Honest Roast to be mostly like wholesale type of business, right? Like I didn't want to have like a retail presence. I didn't want to sell like directly to customers. I wanted to, obviously like do the online store, but I mostly just wanted to sell to retailers and just have it be like a wholesale company. Whereas obviously Northbound is it's all retail. We don't sell anything online. Anything you want, you need to come to the store and get it. And it's it's a coffee shop, so you need to obviously come there and get that. I just think I would probably tell myself, look, you think essentially how much work this is going to be, but it's going to be that much work, but it's going to be a different kind of work that you're probably not really prepared for, which I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't prepared for the amount of work that it was going to be, and just like the day to day and the dealing with like, wow, I've been sitting here for like 3 hours and no one has come in, or, that type of stuff. Because when you're dealing with essentially like a wholesale business, like that doesn't happen. You establish like these wholesale accounts and they buy coffee. And if they don't, you just sort of move on to the next one. And it's not like a lot of that sort of immediate shell shock, and sort of like you're always kind of like hinged for that next sale, I guess. Whereas with retail, that's kind of what you are, and you're just hoping someone comes through the door.
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating. That's one of the reasons why I decided to close January and February this year. I'm paying more money to be there than I'm making, and that sucks.
Yeah.
But
It's never fun to bleed money.
Yeah, I mean, it just whatever. It unfortunately just kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
So I like to think that I've accomplished a lot of things throughout my 5.5-year career of entrepreneurship. For you, what are some of the accomplishments or milestones that stick out to you that you're really proud of?
I think it's, like I said, it's not like anything. There's been so much cool stuff that I've done, and even like the smallest, simplest things are always super cool. Like this past year at the alternative event at the Montessori school that my daughter goes to, one of the E2 tea company, just like they had their own tea mugs made, and they just like gave me one, and I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world. It's like, because that's like, that E2 tea company is super cool. It's like these kids are like growing their own tea leaves in class, and like they've turned it into a business and like all this other stuff. It's freaking awesome. That's super cool. I wish I could have started a tea company in 4th and 5th grade. Like that's badass. Yeah, just like simple things like that. There's so much that is so gratifying and enjoyable, and the really, really small things. It's not like the big events that I've done and even like the big financial deals, the stuff that is, that essentially like pays the bills. Well, obviously like that's important and stuff. It's always kind of like the smaller things that you kind of put in your pocket and sort of like, mean the most to you, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's the same way with the show.
Yeah.
People bring it up pretty often where it's like your average interview, right? People just ask you, how'd you start? What was this? What was this? And yeah, that's like pertinent information for sure. But the stuff that people take away from that is the reason they listen is usually the random things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like for me, episode 1 was talking with Miles about how his first show, he was dressed up as a sheep in his like, you know what I mean? In the play or whatever at his church.
Yeah.
But having that vision of my friend, like doing that as a kid, that was where the connection happened. That's where like the emotional attachment
for
happens.
sure.
And I'm like, this is so sick that I got to like be a part of this conversation for this reason.
Oh, totally.
Or like when, when I throw the skateboard contest and stuff, yes, it's in the news and it's like I get interviewed and whatever. But when it's really cool is when I give the kid his prize that he won. And it's obvious it's the first time that he ever like skated a contest and he's just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so excited, tries to like act cool, but then I can see him running back to his mom, like super, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's those types of things that like, they're not financially gratifying or anything like that, but you're proud of yourself.
Oh yeah.
You know, like what you did, you're like, okay, I am very proud that I'm doing what I'm doing. It obviously is making a difference to people. I am happy that I'm doing what I'm doing. It's worthwhile. You don't look at yourself and go, "Whoa, I wish I never were born." It's the opposite of like, I can tell there's a reason that I'm here and I am making a difference for people. And I think that's super, super important. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's next, I guess, for Honest Roast and Northbound? You're probably going to stay in the same location, I imagine, for a while, but what do you think is going to happen, like, immediate future?
I'm just going to try to keep doing what I'm doing, grow the brands, and just keep plugging along. Basically, like most of the the goals are kind of just like financial goals. Like I just finished Q1 goals, and have like some rough annual goals that I want to do and stuff like that. It's like all just boring number stuff, trying to grow some wholesale accounts and do some other things, add a couple of wholesale accounts, and just the stuff that I in the back of my head's like you need to do this, you need to do this better, like the little personal trainer that's in the back of your brain all the time telling you about all the stuff that you need to do or the stuff that you're doing wrong. I want to work more on like the website, kind of like revamp that. Fun stuff like that. Just it's boring business stuff.
Yeah, you're a boring dad. Crazy. No, I guess I feel like I've gotten to the point with my store where I did kind of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it's stable and I'm chilling and it's fun. But now I'm like excited by trying to find other things. And I'm just like, I used to make a lot of money. And ever since I dropped down to making hardly any money, I just don't care.
Yeah.
It's weird how little attachment I have to my finances.
Yeah.
Like I don't look at my numbers, dude. Like quarter to quarter, I only look at them when I do my taxes and I'm like, "Oh, I guess I made a lot less money this year."
Yeah.
I honestly like don't really notice. I pay the bill, like things I need for the shop. If my shop does better during a season, all that money just goes into more inventory and all of a sudden my store is more full. But if I don't make as much money, then there's just less stuff in my store. But I don't actually change my own personal spending habits a whole lot because I just don't really spend a lot of money in general.
Yeah.
So it's weird. Like, because most people, like, I feel like that's important to them. But for me, and I mean, obviously, like, everyone likes money. If somebody wanted to give me $100 tomorrow, I'd be like, "Oh, tight, that was nice of you."
Yeah.
But in general, I don't pay attention to any of that stuff.
It's man, it's so interesting. Like we kind of talked about, like most of my friends now are other like small business owners, and it's like split pretty much 50-50 down the middle, where like I have friends that it can be like, "Hey, tell me what your like revenue was for like Q4," and like half of them will be like they have that number memorized, right? They can probably give you like a quick P&L on like what they did for that quarter, right? And the other half are just like, "Dude, I don't know, like, I mean, whatever, like we made money, we lost money. I have a rough idea, but they're not like," it's funny to me how like small business owners seem to be like in one of those two different categories. I know some people that run very successful businesses that have no idea where the numbers are. I mean, they have some idea, but again, if you ask them like those detail, accounting type questions, they'll just be like, "Oh, no." And then I have other friends that they can be like, "I'm looking at the spreadsheet right now. I can tell you exactly what it is," because I look at that thing like on a daily basis. It's super interesting to me because there's always that, like the business moguls and the online coaches that are like, trying to teach everyone how to like run a successful business and like, "Oh, you got to do this and you got to do that." And there's so many people that that don't, and it's kind of like it's cool to see that, and that's why I think it sort of helps me almost have faith in just like the follow your bliss type mentality, where it's like if you want to do a thing and you feel strongly about it, and it's something within you where it's like I got to do this, I got to do something that's bigger than just myself, right? And you feel like really compelled to do that. I think it's super cool that you can still do that. And it's like, well, you don't have to be like an accountant, and everything else. I mean, if you have a fairly simple grasp of how numbers work, you can figure that out. It's not that difficult.
Yeah. And I'm good with money. Like I am very smart with my money, and I was 2 years ahead in math in high school and stuff. Like I have a good grasp of doing numbers in my head.
Sure.
But I feel like I just make the right decisions on all the big stuff, and I just get a feel of what's going on, and I don't have to look back at it.
Yeah.
And part of it too is like there's so many X factors that even if you did the math, they can skew things one way or another.
Oh yeah.
I just like seasonally, like for real, if we have more snow, I just make a lot less money.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah.
I just make less money.
Yeah.
That in my industry is very trendy. So skateboarding may not be trendy this year. So
Yeah.
it's, I don't know. I try to make the right decisions of like, I know which products that I purchase that have larger profit margins. Like I know which ones I make more money on when I sell them. Do I remember specifically how much? No, but I know like this product makes me more money than this product and those types of things. But yeah, I am very grateful that my business is working without me having to spend a bunch of time crunching all that stuff. Cause that stuff, I mean, for you said it was like kind of relaxing. You enjoy that. I hate that shit. I absolutely like when it's time to do my taxes, I just dread it. I know I'm getting some money back and I still dread doing it. It's my least favorite thing about what I do.
Yeah. I always say I feel like I'm fortunate because I know where my strengths are and where my weaknesses are. And there's certainly a lot of things about owning a business that I hate. Like I can't stand a lot of the that comes along with it, but there's also, the enjoyable parts too. And there's balance with anything. I mean, even if it's like whatever your favorite thing to do in the world is or whatever, if I got a job as a professional taco eater, you know what? Like there'd be days where I'd grow up where like, I just want a cheeseburger. I don't want to eat tacos anymore. I'm sick of tacos. Get them out of my face. But I mean, that's humans. We want what we can't have.
Put tacos in my face, please. So I want to share an experience. And if you can think of another one, you can.
Sure.
So at the end of the episodes, we always share an experience of something that happened to you that you're really thankful happened, but only happened because you chose to pursue your passions for whatever that particular industry is. Mine, one that sticks out to me that was really cool is, I don't think I shared this, but honestly, at this point, I may end up repeating myself on what I'm saying because a lot of these things are cool. But I had a shoe come out for my store.
Okay.
I had this company called the Free and Liberated State, or just State for short. The owner's name is Kevin Furtado. He reached out to me personally, which was tight. He used to be the designer for this shoe company called Decline that eventually went out of business. And he didn't think it was because the shoes were bad. He thought it was because the ownership and like there's too many people involved, right? But he still wanted to make shoes. So he started his own company with all his own money and everything and called it the Free and Liberated State. And he's a skateboarder. He knows what's up. So he's doing all these small collabs with different brands. He's just trying to like do things in a little bit different way now that the skate shoe industry is like Nike, New Balance, Adidas, Vans. And like, that's it. Converse, I guess, which is Nike. But like, that's all it is. He wants to do something a little bit different. So he had the idea of like, I want to do collabs with shops. That would be sick if skate shops could have their own shoe. How can we make that happen without the minimums being obnoxious? Right, because that's usually the problem.
Right,
you need to order 1,000 of something. Well, I'm not going to sell 1,000 shoes that have my name on it. That's
yeah.
not realistic. Well, he had the idea of like we can just stitch on the tongue, a tag basically. Like we can stitch a tag and print whatever we want on it, and then do whatever insoles we want. So he called me up and he's like, "Hey, you want to just do like 25 shoes? We'll put your logo on the tongue, and then you can give me whatever artwork you want for the insoles. It'll be like your shoe." Yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah.
That sounds so sick.
Yeah, that's super cool.
I asked my buddy Keith, who's my tattoo artist and does a lot of graphics and stuff for me. And I was like, "Yo, do you want to like do a insole on a shoe?" And he's like, "Yeah, I want to do an insole on a shoe." I was like, "Tight." So I gave him the little thing and he drew something up for me. We like worked on it together, picked coloring the way we wanted to do it, sent it in, took, 6 to 9 months, took a while. But dude, when that box came in and I opened it, it was like that like moment of opening it and I'm like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
Like this is my shoe. I have my own like pro model of shoe.
Yeah.
How the did that ever happen to me?
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
again, it wasn't like crazy financial gain or something, but just
Right.
the fact that I was able to have that happen at all was like
Yeah.
mind blowing to me. And
Yeah.
I'm really, really excited about it. And I'll definitely keep a pair of those and never wear them.
Oh
like,
yeah,
forever.
for sure. I mean, I think like that story kind of makes me think about like what I think about a lot with, like I always say, like the relationships that I've formed are like what's most important to me about starting the businesses. And I guess that's what my big takeaway is that, I always think about like, man, I wouldn't know any of these people if I didn't start. Like if I didn't start Honest Roast, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. Right.
Yeah, well,
like,
absolutely. Yeah.
I like all these cool people that I know, like I wouldn't know any of them if I didn't do that, and I kind of would have been like, and it's not like, I look back and I'm like, oh, my life sucked before. It was terrible. And it was like, it wasn't, but I just like, I feel like, all these doors that I've gone through, it's like, and it's kind of like, this is a path that like I'm kind of making, and I think by like going out and doing your own thing, that's like kind of the cool aspect of it is that you're just, you're kind of like just steering your ship and you're like, I hope I know where I'm going, and all those relationships are always super cool. It's always about the human condition for me is like whatever, making a bunch of money would be super cool. But to me, it's more important about having those relationships than it is about the money.
Yeah, I talk about it a lot on this podcast because I really think it's important. I've, dealt with some depression issues and stuff periodically, and self-care is something that people just don't pay enough attention to, I don't think.
Oh, yeah.
So many people are struggling and they think that's what life feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just supposed to feel like that all the time. And it doesn't have to feel that way. You know what I mean? And that's the cool part is it's not money, when you own your own business. For most people, it's not money, but it's that sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool. And that's what's so fun when you're like talking with other business owners because you're rooting for them for their next fucking thing. They're your friends, but you see the struggle and you see that mountain in front of them, just like the mountain in front of me. And we're both climbing it. And you're like, let's do this thing together.
Right.
When you're in a normal career, you don't give a shit. Like, why do you, you want your coworker that you like to get promoted over the other guy, but you don't really care. You're not personally invested. But the reason these friendships are deeper is because you are sharing this like passionate goal that you guys are accomplishing. You know what I mean? There's so much more feeling there.
Yeah.
All right, so I like to end all the episodes with a piece of advice from each of us. I always preface quick and say that not everyone listens to either me or you and gives a shit.
I don't care what these idiots say.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm young and I don't know everything, even if I think I do sometimes. Do you want me to give my piece of advice or do you want to go first?
Go for it, man.
Okay, so this one is just stealing off of something else. I read this book a little while ago and it was awesome, dude. It was so awesome. I am a very much routine person and it does work for me. It's how I manage my time and things like that. But my advice for this episode is to find ways to break out of your routine so that way you can discover new things about yourself, new things that can make you a better or more successful person. The book that I want to refer to is called Wake Up by Chris Perez Brown. The premise of the book is it's separated into 50 different exercises that are 3 pages, okay? And they explain this is what the exercise is. This is why we think it could potentially be beneficial to you. And the 3rd page is to ask you how it felt after you did it. And I read this book and I did a bunch of these challenges, okay? And one of them was no screens for a week. That was like one of the things. Just don't look at any screens. You can't watch any TV. You can't play any video games. You can't watch YouTube. Take that out of your life for a week. And then let's like think about it, reflect on it after a week. It's going to be tough because you're used to doing that.
Yeah.
But it broke me out of my routine and I stopped watching TV in the evenings. I ended up going like 6 weeks without watching any form of TV or media at all after that first week. And that's when I started listening to a lot of podcasts.
Yep.
This was a while ago now, but that's when I started listening to a lot of podcasts. And I was like, holy shit, I have so much more time in my day. What?
Yeah.
But there are other ones, man. Another one, and I was doing this for a while, was at the beginning of your day, go outside and sit for 5 minutes. Just sit outside for 5 minutes to start your day. Dude, it was like life-changing.
Yeah.
Now every morning I have to just drink my coffee and relax and not attend to anything to start my day.
Yeah.
And I have such a better positive mental attitude. Normally I do it out on my porch when it's nice out with it. But I can't do it. But I still sit and drink my coffee like that. So that's my advice. Break out of your routine. Check out that book. That might give you some tips of things that you didn't think to maybe try. But your life could be totally different in a really cool way that you never thought about if you're willing to be open to those things.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you on that one. Let's see, what kind of knowledge can I amass here in like a couple of seconds? I kind of do something similar to what you do, except I flip flop it because I'm a morning or not a morning person, which is again weird. I always said I don't fit in with other people in the coffee industry. I'm not a morning person, so. But I do it at night. I usually like to unwind at the end of the day and sit out on the deck and drink a beer and smoke a cigar and just stare at the stars. And man, I just figure so much stuff out then. Just kind of opening up my brain and kind of letting the universe talk to me for a little while is super awesome. And I always kind of think about like, if there's anything that is out there that you think you can do or want to try, just do it, man. Follow your bliss. It's a super important, super fulfilling thing to do. And if anything that you care that much about, where it's like, and it can be anything, and it's like, it's, you know, it all walks of life, even if it's, I want to be like a professional Lego assembler. Like, I don't even know if that's a thing, but if that's what your jam is, do it, you know? And I always use this for example, like, there's this old guy on YouTube that reviews eating TV dinners. That's like what his YouTube channel is. Dude's got like 120,000 subscribers. It seems totally ridiculous to me. He uses like a shitty old webcam, and the video quality sucks, and he can't edit videos for shit. But like, I have watched so many of these because it's like, this guy is like, whatever it is, he is passionate about this and he cares about it. And it's like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like I always say, it is super awesome to watch something that someone is really, really passionate about, like watching them do it. Bob Ross, right? Like anyone will sit there and watch that guy paint forever because the dude is awesome, you know, and you can tell that he really, really cares about what he's doing, you know, and that's why it's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So whatever it is that you want to do out there, just do it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.